Hello everyone, my name is Hannah and I am here to share and to document our surrogacy journey. I don't know, that's my cat, by the way. I don't know where to start necessarily. We met with an agency in, I would say, February of this year. It's 2019. And this was after reaching out to our fertility clinic where our embryos are frozen. So let me take a step back. We have 2 children, one of which, my most recent child, my youngest son, is a IVF baby. He was conceived via IVF. He was our second go at doing a transfer. My first transfer was a fresh cycle, which means we put it in right after the embryos were created, and that unfortunately did not lead to a viable pregnancy. The second one produced my son. So we transferred 2 embryos at that time, and just he made it. And I had a pretty typical pregnancy. However, afterwards, I got very, very sick because I had placental retention, and I ended up becoming septic, and then went into what's called DIC, which basically means I bled out, more or less, and I lost my fertility. They did a radical hysterectomy, and I was very, very sick for a long time. But thankfully, I'm fine. So the only caveat is I can no longer carry my own pregnancies, and this is an issue because we still have 2 frozen embryos that obviously need a chance. So we currently have 2 sons. One will be 8 and one will be 2, both very soon. Excuse me, I've got the funk. We reached out when we felt we were ready to take on surrogacy. It's quite a beast, and we kind of knew what we were looking at going into it, financially, emotionally, everything that goes along with it, because I had done research. And when I was mentally ready to think about being able to give up the control of having somebody else carry my child, we reached out and we met with an agency that our fertility clinic kind of works with, and they came to us. It's a woman, and she's like a coordinator, and she came to our house to talk to us about like the steps and the cost and kind of what we were biting off. We kind of needed a little bit to process it and get things lined up, and then we decided to go ahead with it. We signed a contract for like a match contract, and we paid $10,000 to start. I do want to go into the financial side of this because I feel like there's such an unknown, and sometimes people can think, it's cheap and easy to get a surrogate, and some people can think it's absolutely unaffordable. And I would say it's somewhere in between, depending on you and your, lifestyle and means and stuff. But anyway, so we paid $10,000 and agreed that at the first signs of a heartbeat, we would pay an additional $5,000 before we started really anything else. And then after that, she starts to, and I should say, in that process, there's paperwork where they ask a lot of really tough questions about what like our views are on termination, and in what instances we would or would not terminate, even selective termination. If our embryos were to split and we would have 4 babies, would we decide to terminate any or some of them if the doctor suggested to? So just like really hard questions like that. And the other trick is we had to find somebody who was willing to receive 2 embryos at one time. A lot of times surrogates would only like to do 1 for obvious reasons. It's riskier to have a multiple pregnancy, and not everybody is okay with that. We wanted to do 2. That was important to me for a lot of reasons. One of which, this is expensive. I don't want to do this twice. And, but that's not the most important reason. Most importantly is this has been extremely difficult on me, losing my fertility, becoming so sick. And we kind of just want to not think about this chapter of our life anymore. We want to just get on with raising these kids rather than worrying about whether we are or aren't going to have any more. So we decided, let's do 2. We did 2 with my son, like I said, and we did 2 before. And so we've kind of had both outcomes. We've had where none were successful, 1, and maybe we'll have 2, or maybe it won't work at all. Either way, we have peace. And we know that we can't control this, and so whatever is meant to be will be. And we just want to give these little guys a chance. I say little guys. We did not have them gender tested. It was an option. We just chose that not to. We want to find out the same way everybody else does. So where was I? We sent in our match paperwork, and she came back with a profile. And I don't want to give too much information for our match, only because I don't know how she feels about me making this video, because I didn't ask her. And we are still kind of early, but I hope to eventually ask her, because I'd like to document her in this too. Anyway, wonderful woman. I'll give you kind of broad details. She is a mama already. She has a baby who is 1 year old. She is a single woman with a stable job and family support. And she is roughly my age, very sweet, very shy. And so basically once we read her profile, you get kind of like a 1 to 2 page essay with photos about her and her reasoning for wanting to be a surrogate. And she sounded wonderful, and it felt really good felt like a good match for us. So we met her shortly after that. My husband and I and our 2 boys, we drove to the surrogate matching agency, and we all met in a conference room with the matcher and her and me and my family, and we kind of just asked questions. We let her ask questions. She has never been a surrogate before. This is her first time, and obviously it's our first time too. And I think it went really, really well. You could tell that my cat again. You could tell she was nervous. I'm sure she could tell we were nervous, and you kind of feel like, you're being interviewed while also interviewing someone. Like, I hope she agrees to like us. And a lot of things that they talked about were kind of tough subjects, similar to the questioning we had. She also had to be questioned in that way too. So all of our ideals matched up, and we both kind of realized that we were on the same track. Plus she agreed that 2 embryos was okay for her. The other thing that is kind of interesting is that some surrogates will not be a surrogate for a family that doesn't have children, and some won't be a surrogate for families who do have children, for various reasons. So to be a surrogate for a family that already has biological children means that the mother most likely has gone through pregnancy and can respect what it's like how hard it is to be pregnant. And then so that kind of makes it a little bit easier, and for some people, like, they think it would be easier because then there isn't like unrealistic expectations about what you should and shouldn't be doing while you're pregnant. And I'm sorry that my cat feels the need to do this right now. I can scoot over. Okay. So she liked the idea that I had been pregnant before and could understand, that it is going to be her pregnancy. It is not my pregnancy. I may have a way of doing things that she doesn't. And as long as she is safe and smart, I trust her. That's what, it's giving up all the power and all the trust to somebody who is just doing this out of the kindness of their heart, letting me borrow her body, basically. So she was just very open to me being involved in the process. She said, you can come to the appointments. I would like it if you were in the delivery. She even said that my husband could be in the delivery at the head of the bed. However, he is not interested. I had a C-section, so there was a curtain, and it was very clean, and he didn't really have to be shocked by anything that he saw. And he's just very comfortable with me being in there and obviously seeing the baby right away after. Getting ahead of myself here. Basically, we met her and it went really well. From there, she was getting on new insurance and that didn't quite start yet. We had to kind of wait. And in the meantime, there was paperwork that needed to be sent to my fertility office. Basically, medical records for her pregnancy and for her lifetime, just to make sure she's A-okay and healthy. And that kind of took a while, only because our matching agency, the woman who kind of runs everything, went on a cruise and then got sick or something. Normally that doesn't take quite as long as it did for us. It ended up taking over a month to have them sent over, just faxed right over. Anyway, all that was checked out. She was cleared, good to go. And this is the same fertility office where my IVF was done with my youngest son. So I know these people, I trust them, and of course they are holding our embryos there. So that was all sent over, check, everything was good. And then we had to wait for her to make her first appointment, which actually was today. So basically at the first appointment, what is expected to be done is just kind of like here's what to expect. This is what the next steps are going to be. This is what the expectancy of the time frame is going to be, for her. And I guess for me too, but, basically it's her introductory, whatever. So 2 days ago, the surrogacy matcher, texted me and said, hey, are you going to be there on Wednesday? Today is Wednesday, June 12th. And I said, can I be? And she was like, oh yeah, you should go. And I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't know if this early in the process she wanted me involved in her doctor's appointments. I didn't know if she was going to need a pap smear or anything that was uncomfortable for her to have me at, considering we haven't signed real contracts yet. And I don't want to push any boundaries that she's not comfortable with. But when she said I could go, I said, awesome, I'll be there. And if nothing else, I'll just be in the waiting room to support her. If she doesn't want me in the room, I understand. So I met her in the waiting room. I saw her, I recognized her, obviously. And she was like, hey, I'm really sorry I was so nervous last time. I feel more comfortable now. And I said, you could not have been more nervous than I was. And we got to talk and we made some small talk. She's very shy and quiet, which I am not. But we talked like we were old friends. It was really great. And, she updated me on her daughter and I updated her on my boys. And then we went back and we started talking to the doctor who actually did my first transfer, the one that was unsuccessful. And he remembered me and my husband, and, I kind of caught him up on everything. And then he explained the process to her, kind of told her the next steps, went through her medical records again, went through her medical records again, just said, you have nothing going on here, you're very healthy. And she, agreed, answered a few questions. Is she allergic to medicine? Does she remember anything that needs to be mentioned? Basically, no. And surprisingly, they had openings to do her first saline ultrasound, her blood work, the explanation of the medications, and starting her on the medications. They had time for that all while we were there today, which was very unexpected. But I was excited because I'm, ready to full force go, of course, because that's easy for me to say, right? My body isn't the one that's being, used here. But she was like, great, that sounds good. So they did the saline ultrasound. She left a urine sample. They took her blood work, and they explained all the medicine to her, all really, really quickly. Well, it seemed quick, it was all within the normal amount of time those things would take, but kind of just did everything at the first visit. So from here, we'll wait for her results, of course. I think it's like STD testing and genetic type stuff, just to kind of cover all the bases. And she will stay on birth control that she's been on right now. And then from here, she will do her psych visit, where I guess they ask more tough questions, but more like, what would you do kind of questions, and how would you handle this, and what if this happened, how, would you be able to recover from this, and just preparing for everything. God forbid what happened to me happens to her. Is she ready to only have one pregnancy the rest of her life and it not even be hers? Just really kind of what ifs and exploring all of those avenues. So she will do that, and my surrogacy agency is going to set that up for her. And I will be contacting a lawyer who will draw up the, it's like family planning lawyer, who will draw up the surrogacy contract. And apparently that takes the longest. It can take a couple weeks. It can take a couple months. I'm really hoping it's not the latter, but God's time. So I left a message for that person today, and I'm kind of waiting to hear back. She made it sound like I should have known this and like already had this done. I don't remember her telling me, but it was a lot of information at once. So I'm doing it now, and I'm hoping that it goes okay. So basically, my surrogate will start on or continue her birth control. And basically, we kind of have to just wait for the contract to be signed. As soon as the contract is signed, she can go off her birth control, start a period. As soon as the first day of her period starts, she will take estrogen twice a day. Estradiol is the name of the medication. Twice a day, just like I had to when I did my frozen sample. And then she will do that, I think it was like 10 days. And then she comes in for an ultrasound to make sure the lining of her uterus is being built up, which is what the estradiol is supposedly doing, supposed to be doing. And then she will start on progesterone. And a couple days after the progesterone, I think she has blood work and or another ultrasound. And then the transfer happens. And I think that's on day 19 of the whole cycle. So from when she stops the pill and starts her period. And then she will stay on the estradiol and the progesterone until she is 10 weeks pregnant. There are various other ultrasounds, obviously, and blood work after the transfer to make sure if she does become pregnant that it's progressing appropriately and, you know, how many are in there and what happened, basically. And so currently, I'm kind of just in limbo waiting for paperwork, which is so frustrating because, you know, when all the people are ready, you know, the important parts are ready, you expect, you know, let's just do it. But, you know, I have to be patient, not get ahead of myself. I wish I had documented my IVF journey when I did it with my son, because I feel like that could have been very helpful for people. And I realize that more now because I'm trying to explain to her what I remember from having a frozen transfer, and I've realized how much I've forgotten. So I don't want to do that this time. And if nobody ever watches these videos, that's okay too. I just want to be able to look back. So I'm going to update again when I have further information. Hopefully that's very soon. And if this pregnancy doesn't happen, I love these embryos anyway. And they still are my children. And I hope that they see this someday, maybe. And just know that there's so many people involved in this that are making you possible. And maybe I can help somebody out there who's going through this or wants to go through this someday and doesn't know what to expect. So in the meantime, I will be gathering information and taking a lot of notes, and then I will be back with another video. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you soon. Thank you. Bye.